Well, we're continuing in this series on the finished work of Christ. And I guess you realize it's progressive when we're leading you down a path and we're working our way to get to a good place. Can you say amen? Amen. And if you have a Bible, we're going to start off in Mark 11. Mark 11. And I've got the King James there. We're talking last Wednesday and tonight, and probably for a couple of weeks, on having your own faith life. It's an unhappy thing to be dependent on another person's faith. Now, I realize in a way we're all dependent on one another. I realize that. But in this vital issue of life, no believer should be dependent upon another's ability to approach the throne and pray for them. We can't afford to trust others with vital issues that we ourselves should be able to face. And I was meditating on this today. And here at the church, we give employees their birthday off. And I worked yesterday, so I was off today. I was meditating on this. And you know, I like to find verses that we have not taken action on, and then take action on them. We did that, remember, a few Sundays. Pray for one another, that ye may be healed. That's not a verse that we naturally and normally go to and take action on. And I like to find these verses and take action on them, because then you don't know what's going to happen. Something good will happen. And I was meditating on this today, where Jesus said, Mark 11:22, have faith in God. I mean, how come we don't work on this one? Have faith in God, for verily I say unto you that whosoever shall say. So he says, have faith in God, and then immediately goes to confession. Have faith in God. Well, how are we supposed to have faith in God? Have faith in God, for verily I say unto you that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. Verse 24, therefore I say unto you, what things soever you desire, when ye pray, believe that you receive them, and ye shall have them. And actually, Mark 11:24 is another way of explaining what I've been working on in this church the last few Sunday mornings, this thing of receiving. And when ye pray, believe that you receive them, and ye shall have them. I didn't bring a King James Bible with me this evening. Who's got a King James Bible? Ronnie? All right, so then the question comes up, okay, how come everybody's not doing this? How come everybody's not walking in this? 1 John 3:21-22. Dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have confidence before God and receive from him whatever we ask, because we obey his commands and do what pleases him. All right, so that is a hindrance to faith, because people, frankly, you know, we just have to wear blinders. You have to understand this. In the ministry, we have to wear blinders. We're like horses, we got blinders on. So when we come on Sunday, we got blinders on. And the reason is because we end up during the week dealing with people, trying to help people. And we come to church, we think everybody's living for Jesus and everybody loves the Lord and everybody's a doer of the word. Well, when you meet with people during the week and you find out, man, they got this going on and they got that drama going on and they got this curse going on and they got this addiction going on. They got all this stuff going on. Well, when you talk to them, you find out, well, they're not living the life. And because they're not living the life, they open doors. Satan comes in and he is a squatter. You know, it's a whole lot easier to let them in than it is to get rid of them. That's right. Dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, dear friends, if your heart does not condemn you, you have confidence before God and receive from him anything you ask. This is 1 John 3:21-22. It's one of the most important couple of verses in the Bible. It's so important. About 2 years ago, the Lord told me to rehearse it every day. He said, build it into your spirit man. Dear friends, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have confidence before him and receive from him anything we ask because we obey his commands and do what pleases him. How many believers, now don't raise your hand, but how many believers do you know that are actually obeying his commands? Because you got a lot of people in church. Actually, a lot of people are going to churches now where they're actually teaching it doesn't matter what you do. Well, how about you just try that on your wife? Just go home. In fact, show up 5 hours late from work tomorrow night and say, well, I heard in church, not this one, I heard in some other church. It doesn't matter what I do. Well, after you recover from your fractured skull, from getting hit upside the head with a cast iron skillet, maybe you'll understand that is nonsense. Tell your neighbor, it does matter what you do. Okay, so one reason people don't walk in faith is they're not living genuine Christian lives. They're not obeying his commands, and their heart's condemning them because of the stuff they're into. But now go back to Mark 11. Look at verse 25. We ended in verse 24, verse 25. And when ye stand praying, forgive, if ye have aught against any, that your Father also, which is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. But if you do not forgive, neither will your Father, which is in heaven, forgive your trespasses. Ouch. And so if we don't walk in love, that's another hindrance to, there's your place. That's another hindrance to faith. And I'm just appalled as we get closer to the end at how Christians treat each other. You know, I've read the book of Acts twice just in recent weeks, and you see what they did, the Jesus haters. Every town Paul went to preach in, the Jews did two things. They started a riot, and they sicked the civil authorities on those proclaiming Christ. Now, who does that sound like in our 2018 society? In other words, start a riot and then use civil authorities against somebody saying something you disagree with. But what I'm seeing, and I'm so alarmed by it in my spirit, man, Christians are doing this to each other. So faith's not going to work for anybody if we're not living the life, if we're not obeying his commands, if we are opening doors which allows our own heart to condemn us, and if we're not walking in love. Say it out loud. Every action I take, and every word I speak, is a seed sown. And before I take the action, and before I speak the word, I need to ask myself if I want that coming back at me. Because, you know, just in the last 7 days, I faced something. And my nature, my human nature, I probably have a southern accent by now, but I was born in Detroit. I'm telling you what, man, in Detroit, we fought. I still remember showing up in the woods with switchblade in one hand and a chain in the other. Now, the powers that be negotiated that down and nothing happened. But I was there. That's how I came up, and there was no supervision. My dad was out of town Monday through Friday. My mother had absolutely no idea where I was and didn't care. When we were dating, Sue said, you ran wild your whole life. And that was really actually probably prophetic because she had in mind a remodeling project. The harness was coming. And that's a good thing because, you know, George Gilder in his book, Men and Marriage, he talks about how women civilize men. Men by nature aren't civilized. You know, if you marry a good woman, she'll civilize you to some degree. Have faith in God. Now, notice what Jesus did not say. Jesus did not say, go find someone who has faith to pray for you. But that's what everybody's doing in 2018. That's not what he said. He said, have faith in God. And all these years, 45 years, I've been preaching since June of 1973. I've taught people to exercise their faith, even if you don't need anything, pick something. I hear it within the last 30 days, I said in this church, if it's just $1,000, believe God for $1,000 to come out of the blue, unexpected. But find some way to exercise your faith. And here's the reason why. The way Fred Price taught it years ago, you need to find out how it works. Just yesterday, I opened up a belated Christmas card, and if those people aren't here, I don't mean to be critical saying it's belated, but in other words, it came a few days later. I opened it up and read it, and I was really proud of this young couple because they had made a list of all these answers to prayer in 2018, and you could tell because of the way they did it that they had been keeping a record in real time because nobody could remember all of this stuff in December. So actually what they did, hats off, salute, actually what they did is they came in and followed my example of keeping a record of miracles. And they weren't all big, $1,000 here, $2,000 there, but out of the blue, stuff that was not expected. I read another one, belated, no criticism there, from a college student. Miracle after miracle after miracle. Within the last fortnight, a lady came up to me in the fellowship atrium and said that her family, they've been going through the Holy Week revival. They watched the Holy Week revival. They start at the front, either Sunday or Monday. I'm not sure what they're doing. They get to the end of it and they start all over. And while they're doing that, they're reading and rereading Oral Roberts' book, The Miracle of Seed Faith. And she reported to me that they've had, since they started doing this, and they can't get off it. You know, when you get on good word, you can't hardly get off it until you can do what I used to call mastering the message. I mean, I'm listening to Fred Price in my car right now, a series he did back in the 80s. And there's no telling how many times I've gone through 55 messages. I'm on number 16 now. And number 14, I listened to it 2 or 3, 4 times until I got back to where I knew what he was going to say before he said it. And then I go to 16, I'm on 16 now. In a different vehicle, I'm on number 5 of a Kenneth Hagin series. And that series is probably 20, 25 years old. A famous Word of Faith pastor asked Austin this year, who does your dad listen to? And he was just amazed that I don't listen to anybody alive. I mean, Fred Price is alive, but he's retired because I can't find that much worth listening to.